Good evening, everybody. Oh, there you go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our talk tonight by Hennie Vorster. Unfortunately, we cancelled Monday night for load shedding and it didn't happen. And tonight, load shedding did happen. So I know a chunk of our the people in the school, the parents, the areas are in load shedding. So thank you for those who could join. And for those who aren't able to join, I think I have about 10 or 15 messages of parents saying, please record. So thank you to Jolene, who's going to record it and upload it onto YouTube that we'll send through to the onto our parent chats. Before I ask Hennie to start, I just want to introduce Hennie. I'm going to start with his quote because I think that will pique your interest as it piqued mine. And Hennie said, "My passion is to empower people to develop their social and emotional intelligence, getting in touch with their higher order intelligences, living life to the full, choosing happiness, and living goal-orientated lives." Sorry. So that is Hennie's mantra, and I think that piqued my interest because I want to hear when somebody says they want to live their whole lives, they want to live full lives, they want goal-directed lives, and you know the stance and the point where Hennie is coming from. Hennie is a qualified educational psychologist. He then completed an advanced business and life coaching certificate through UNISA. Since 2002, Hennie has been in private practice as an educational psychologist. He practices at a wholeness center at the Mosaic Church in Fairland. He works at various educational institutions, including Bella Vista. Hennie has a passion to work with people. He has extensive experience with assessment of children, teenagers, and adults in order to assist with the correct placement of school and career. In his practice, his focus is on children, teenagers, and adults to support them through difficult situations. He also does parental guidance and family dynamic counseling. We had the treat of having Hennie not only speak to all the primary school staff on Monday afternoon, but from grade 2 to grade 6, Hennie spoke to each grade and tailored the talk to them at their age and stage. And the feedback from the kids was that it was they understood it, they absorbed it, and Hennie's actually coming back, I think in 2 weeks' time before we close, to touch base with the kids of how they absorbed it, what they internalized, what they've taken with them, and how they've implemented the strategies. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Hennie. If anyone does have questions, you're more than welcome to post them in the chat. Alternatively, we can answer and we'll give time for parents to ask questions. Hennie, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the privilege of spending time with you this evening and the privilege of spending time with your children on Monday. So yes, this evening I want to chat to us about social media and how to help my child navigate this whole interesting field that we are in. I'm going to share my screen so that we can start with the presentation. Now, first of all, I want to start by saying, by the end of this evening, my goal is not for you to go and take all smartphones, iPads, laptops, PlayStations, Xboxes, and throw it either in the fire or break it up against the wall. There are definitely major advantages to technology and the whole social media and the internet. And Monday, I was giving my age away, and the children were quite shocked when they realized that when I was at school and when many of us were at school, when we had to do a project, we had to go to the library and we had to take out, look up information in the Encyclopedia Britannica, and then we had to photocopy it and put 20 cents in a machine and photocopy it. And hopefully our friend wasn't there at the same time photocopying the same thing. So it was a huge thing. Now these days, if a kid does a project, they type onto their smartphone, into the search engine, and within a few seconds, they've got millions of sites where they can get information from. So let's have a look quickly. What's important for us to understand is that our brains developed at different rates throughout our life. Now, the first part of our brain, the nucleus accumbens, is the pleasure-seeking brain. It's a side of the brain that is stimulated by images. So it's the visual center of my brain. The next one is the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is responsible for me making choices. In other words, for me thinking about the pros and the cons, the advantages, the disadvantages when I'm making these decisions. Now, the important thing to realize here is that my nucleus accumbens is completely developed, fully developed by 8 years of age. So that's where my pleasure-seeking, my visual stimulus of my brain comes from. The rational, logical part of my brain is only fully developed by 21 years of age. Now, the problem is here, I give my child a cell phone. I give my child a smartphone, an iPad, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever. They are on that device, and the part of the brain that's visually stimulated is being flooded with information. It is pleasure-seeking. All they want to do is just scroll through things, play this game, because visually it is so enticing. The part of the brain that says, maybe I shouldn't be looking at this, maybe I shouldn't be playing on this so long, maybe I should rather study, maybe I shouldn't post this, maybe I shouldn't write this message to someone. That part is not yet developed. So it's really difficult for our children to navigate these difficult waters that we are in. Now, they say that the highest predictor, the strongest predictor of whether my child uses social media, internet, PlayStation a lot is how much I as parent use it. So in other words, if I am on my cell phone the whole time, if I'm on my iPad the whole time, if I'm on my computer the whole time, in front of my children, it's actually giving them the message that my phone, my device, is more important than what they are. What the result is, if I'm sitting at the dining table on my smartphone, and I'm on my smartphone the whole time, or I am on my iPad the whole time, in their presence, later on they're going to think that's okay and that's the way to do it. So as a parent, I've got to be the role model in terms of how I manage my device and how I manage my phone. So now if we look at how technology affects different parts of our life, especially children's lives, in terms of sleep, they say that when a child is on a device for long periods of time, they have the shortest sleep durations. So in other words, their brains get stimulated a lot and they tend to be more hyperactive and less focused. The more they use electronic media, the lower the sleep time is in children. Later on, what happens is that the electronics displace the sleep directly. In other words, instead of them sleeping, they are on their devices the whole time. And therefore, they're not getting proper sleep. Their brains are not resting. Also, the more violent the content is, and this later on in the presentation, I'm going to be speaking about gaming specifically. The more violent the content is, the shorter the sleep duration. So in other words, they are not getting quality sleep, which is affecting how their brains grow, which is affecting how they concentrate in class, the attention they are giving in class. It also produces a melatonin shortage. Melatonin is the hormone I need to sleep. About an hour before I normally go to sleep, my brain starts releasing melatonin, which makes me relax, which makes me tired, which allows me to sleep. When I'm on my device, I've got a shortage of melatonin. Other health aspects, we all know that the more time a person spends on their devices, spends in front of the TV, spends in front of PlayStation, Xbox, what normally happens is we start to eat more. All of us last year in lockdown started binge watching Netflix, all these series, because we were all under the illusion that for lockdown's only going to be for 3 weeks and then our lives are going to carry on. So in those 3 weeks we binge watched. And what did I do when I was binge watching? I was eating much more unhealthy, eating crisps, eating chocolates, drinking cold drink I shouldn't be drinking. The more children do this, the more they start eating unhealthily, they start getting obese, it affects their vision, they become short-sighted, they even start getting gross motor coordination difficulties because they're overweight or because they aren't getting exercise. They struggle to move their body and to be comfortable with their body. So let's have a look at some of the apps that are currently out there that children are using. The first one is Facebook, and when I bring Facebook up in an audience where there are children, normally someone shouts out, well, Facebook is for old people. So Facebook was one of the first social media apps that came out, and it has taken the world by storm. Children don't use Facebook that much. We as parents do when we end up posting our holiday photos and our kids' photos, how cute they are and things like that. We have got Instagram, which we all are very much aware of. Here's much more posting of photos, posting of videos. Children use this a lot. You can also DM a person on Instagram, in other words, direct message, so people can start chats on it. And kids love Instagram. YouTube, amazing app that you can use. You can go onto YouTube even to find out how to change the washer on your tap specifically. I mean, there are so many things out there on YouTube that you can use. The problem with YouTube is, and why this is so difficult, is when I load a video up onto YouTube, I decide the age restriction on the video. So in other words, I can say this is for public and for all ages. YouTube does not go and watch all the videos and all the content of the videos. Only after they receive a rating or complaints from other people will they themselves put an age restriction on it. So if there is a video that's uploaded that is not content for children, very often children are exposed to it because there isn't these age restrictions put in by YouTube. WhatsApp, very nice platform to use. A lot of children use it. They start forming groups, chatting things. Last year in lockdown, WhatsApp exploded because people were using it a lot to connect with other people. QMe is an app that is a South African app. It started about 8-9 years ago. On QMe, I load up a profile, and then people can start asking me questions anonymously. And the more I answer the questions, the more popular I become, and the more my ratings go up. The problem with QMe is because it is an open platform, I do not have control over which people ask me questions and which people are on my site. A lot of bullying has happened on QMe, and that's made it very difficult. Snapchat, kids love Snapchat. You can put bunny ears on and make yourself a tortoise or whatever, send photos and things. One of the big problems with Snapchat is a lot of bullying happens on it, because when I send a message on Snapchat, depending on my settings, after 30 seconds, the message disappears. So what happens is children bully each other, call each other names, send photos to each other, things like that. And then if the child does not take a screenshot of it, there's no evidence of the bullying happening. TikTok is a platform that has taken the world by storm in the last 3 years. I'm going to talk about TikTok a bit just now. It's not a very good app for children, in my opinion. Then we also get Whisper. Whisper is an app that started out as an adult dating site. Later on, the children started going on it and are now using it as a direct message site. Once again, it's an open site. The other one that is up there is Discord. Discord is an app that you've got different rooms and different chat rooms that you can go into. Some of them are private, some of them are open. The problem is, as soon as your child goes onto an open platform, they have very little control who sees their messages, who sees the information they load up. The app that I just brought up there now, it looks like a calculator app, and it does everything but mathematics. So many parents are going to their child's phone and see this calculator app, and they think, oh, my child is so studious, they want to study and they want to do maths, that's great. But what this actually is it's a vault app. So in other words, children post messages there, they save photos, they save videos on this app, and then they've got a passcode for it. So in other words, I save videos that I don't want other people to see, or I save photos, messages that I don't want other people to see. And when someone goes into it, it requires a password so that they have access to it. Very often children post videos, photos that is not good for them, and is more for mature audiences, and they very often hide it behind apps like these. Now, this is quite a shocking one. It says, you meet Susan, a 40-year-old man posing as a 15-year-old girl. Susan and your 13-year-old just made plans to meet at the park. This is quite a shocking image, but very often it happens is children play online games with people. Or children accept friend requests from people over Instagram, Facebook, Discord. They are in chat rooms with people, and they assume it is a 12-year-old, it's 11-year-old, it's a friend of a friend of a friend whose best friend's cousin is sitting in Canada. They're the same age as us. They like the games that we like, but very often it isn't an 11-year-old. And very often it happens that children are chatting with other people that are not their age, people that they don't know. And one of the rules that we're going to get to later on today, this evening, is about that you must only chat to people that you know. Because children, because the rational, logical part of their brain is not yet developed, start sharing information over Instagram, over in chat rooms that they are not aware of, that's actually sensitive information. They start having a video like we are having this evening, where a person can see a person's house, can see what's happening in the person's house. They start sharing the address. They start sharing information about which school they attend, what area they stay, which malls they attend. And these people, which is called the dark web, these people out there actually build up databases about children and about people. So let's have a look at, in terms of age restrictions of certain social media apps. I said, yeah, weapons of mass destruction, because social media, although an amazing tool, amazing technology, when used incorrectly, it causes a lot of damage and harm to children, to people. So if we look at age restrictions, Instagram's age restriction, Facebook's age restriction, Snapchat, Pinterest, which the children are also telling me is for older people. It's normally the moms posting photos and looking at things on there. We've got YouTube, we've got Twitter, QMe, TikTok, all these apps, the age restriction is 13. And many of the children Monday, when I spoke to them about this, were quite shocked, because when I install an app, there always comes up the legal things. Then I scroll down to the bottom and I click a little tick box that says, I agree with the following. And one of the things they agree to is that they are older than 13. So I said to the children, as much as they are doing something illegal, it's against the law. So if any child has got a smartphone with any of these apps on, it's actually illegal. They're actually doing something against the law. So basically, there are very few social media apps, if any, that have age restrictions younger than 13. What the result is, and what I'm saying is that people, young children, do not need smartphones. Children under the age of 13 do not need smartphones at this stage. The other shocking one is WhatsApp's age restriction is 16. They changed this from 13 to 16 in 2019 because WhatsApp realized that they do not have control over what gets sent to people. And very often in WhatsApp, messages are sent, photos are sent, videos are sent, which is not meant for children. A lot of bullying happens over WhatsApp. So WhatsApp has actually increased its age restriction. Now, I know many of you are up in arms because WhatsApp is a very nice platform for messaging. But we have to be aware of what's happening on our child's phone, who my child are friends with, who they are sending messages to, what groups they are part of. Very often what happens is children will form class groups or grade groups. And then on these things, bullying starts happening. What the children start doing these days is they start Googling what's the best burn, which is a way of mocking someone. What's the best burn I can say to someone? Then they just copy and paste it. And people's feelings get hurt and a huge fight get happened, because with WhatsApp, with any social media platform, I don't see a person's body language, I don't hear the tone of voice. So all these messages get lost in translation. So in 2019, I'm just going to go very quickly through this. The owners of TikTok were fined 57 million by the 5.7 million, sorry, by the US Federal Trade Commission because they went against privacy laws. They failed to obtain parental consent for users under the age of 13. They collected people's data, including their names, emails, phone numbers, biographic information of children and photos of children under 13, and they actually leaked a lot of this information. There was a formal complaint against them, which included reports of adults contacting children via the app. And TikTok also failed to respond to parents' requests to delete videos of children who were underage. More recently, India has requested TikTok to be removed from the Apple and the Google app stores, as it could expose children to pornographic content, sexual predators, and cyberbullying. So TikTok is an app that children love because there's a lot of videos on it. They can post videos of themselves on there. The problem is the more I search certain topics, the more certain videos gets pushed for me to see. So if I am searching hunting, if I am searching swimsuits, if I am searching soccer, whatever, later on TikTok starts building up a databases and starts feeding me certain videos. And very often children are seeing things that they should not be seeing. In 2020, beginning of 2020, this guy's name is Ronnie McNutt. Ronnie McNutt had a live TikTok video, which was also which was also linked to Facebook, a live video of Facebook, where Ronnie McNutt was playing Russian roulette, and he committed suicide on TikTok. And there were many children who saw it, and TikTok struggled to take the video down. Facebook struggled to take the video down, and as soon as they took the video down, it was reposted by someone else. And there were children up to the age of, as young as the age of 4, 5, 6, who was watching this video of this person actually committing suicide. And children do not have the emotional capacity to be able to deal with something like that they're exposed to. Now this was quite shocking when I saw it the first time. In 2020, in 60 seconds, this is what happens on the internet. Now, this was prior to lockdown, so I wonder if we look at what were the figures during lockdown, it would be much, much more. So just a few of them that I want to highlight. In 60 seconds, during an internet minute, there are 694,000 people scrolling Instagram. There are 1 million swipes on Tinder, which is a dating app. There are 4.7 million videos viewed via YouTube. There are 1,400 videos downloaded on TikTok in 60 seconds. There are 59 million messages sent either via Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. There are 2.5 million snaps created in 60 seconds via Snapchat. There are 764,000 hours of Netflix being watched in 60 seconds. In Facebook, there are 1.3 million people logging on every 60 seconds via the internet. So if we look at all that information, all that data that's being sent, all these things, and our children are seeing this. I struggle very often to put my phone down. I say to myself, I'm only going to go on Instagram for 5 minutes or Facebook. And 25 minutes later, I'm still on there. And I'm an adult. So how much more are my children struggling to put down these devices and things that I need to build in to help them in terms of coping with things? So just a few legal things that I want to chat about quickly on a high level. In terms of privacy, people are saying, especially the children these days are saying, but I've got a right to privacy, which is correct. But according to the law, if someone posts a photo of me, I'm allowed, without my permission, I'm allowed to take them to court. And then a good lawyer is going to argue the following. Section 14 of our Constitution talks about an expectation of privacy, which means if I post photos of my children, a lot of photos of my children, a lot of photos of myself, and someone then posts a photo of me, they can say, but because I've posted a lot of photos of myself, I am entitled to less privacy than someone else. Whereas if someone that posts very few photos about themselves, about the children, have got a higher expectation of privacy. Now, the interesting thing is if I open an Instagram account, I don't have privacy anymore because whatever I post online can get seen. If I have got a private Instagram account, as soon as I add a hashtag emotional intelligence, hashtag social media, that post becomes open and public to everyone. And as a parent, I need to dictate the right of privacy of my children. In other words, if my child is on Instagram and constantly posting photos of herself, taking selfies of herself, posting it online, later on, she is not going to have a right to privacy because she's posted all these photos. So as a parent, I need to be responsible for that because my child does not realize the implications of these things yet. So what are some of the crimes according to the criminal capacity? The Child Justice Act of 2008 says any child under the age of 10 has no criminal capacity. In other words, under the age of 10, if a child does something illegal, they cannot be taken to jail. They cannot be held accountable, though their parents could be held accountable. Between the age of 10 to 14, a child is presumed not to have capacity, but it can be shown. In other words, a good lawyer would argue and say, but your child is in a very good school, very good private school. They've had a lot of input in their lives, so they should know better. So they could be held accountable. And over the age of 14, they've got full criminal capacity. So if they slander someone via the internet, they say bad things, they bully someone, they share information, photos they're not supposed to share, they can be held fully criminally accountable after the age of 14. Now, the crimes that are committed very often via social media is criminal injuria, which is infringement of dignity. So in other words, that is any post that I post where I put someone else in a bad light or another group of people in a bad light. If I talk about religion or culture or race in a discriminatory way, that's infringement of dignity. If I post a picture of someone and give my opinion, which is negative about this person, that's an infringement of dignity, and I can be held criminally responsible for that. Now, just something I want to touch on lightly for us to be aware of. CSCAM stands for Child Sexual Abuse Material. It is the new terminology used for pornography. The first exposure, the average age that a child is exposed to child sexual abuse material is 11 years. In other words, it's the age of a grade 4 child. And that is quite shocking if you think that many of us have not yet had the bees and the birds talk with our 11-year-old. And they are being exposed to things via social media that we haven't even spoken to them about. And that they do not have the emotional capacity to manage that. In South Africa, the viewing porn, they say 9 to 11-year-olds, 24% of them have been exposed to porn or are watching porn, and 15 to 17 years, 72% have watched porn. Now, if we look specifically at the child brain, at the teenager brain, the teenager brain is very novelty seeking. In other words, they want new information, they want excitement. And this is where social media fills that gap, because you've got Instagram, you've got TikTok, you've got all these different apps, you've got all these games that is feeding the child's brain exactly what they want. They want a lot of social engagement. On Instagram, girls are posting photos of themselves, and if they haven't got within a minute a certain amount of likes, they take their photo down because they think they're not pretty enough, or that photo isn't beautiful enough. So they are seeking social engagement via these apps. And these apps, although called social media, does not teach them the social skills they need. There's an increased emotional intensity with the teenagers. All of us know that have had teenagers, or ourselves when we were teenagers, our emotions were so much more heightened. We were much more sensitive to things. If someone said something to us, we automatically made it much bigger in our heads. They are very creative and they want to explore things. Social media addresses it by you can aimlessly scroll through things the whole time and be exposed to things. And that is the teenage brain. So it also looks very messy, the way it gets reorganized. They say that neurons that fire together wire together. So in other words, a child that's constantly looking at the same similar type of information, constantly those brain paths get established. In other words, a child that plays a lot of violent games, that brain path for violence gets established, and they're more prone to that. The reward center is intense. They want this constant feedback. They want this constant immediate feedback that they are okay, that they have won the game, that people like them for who they are. And a hit for them is a huge hit. In other words, a like on Instagram, which for us as adults is nice, for a child it's a huge thing, especially if it's the right person liking their photo, or the right boy or girl liking their photo. And if we look at things like alcohol, drugs, pornography, how this affects the adolescent brain. So if we look at games specifically, now I know that there are a lot of children out there, many children out there that are playing these games, and I've seen in my practice, the boys are more prone to playing the more aggressive, violent games. Girls like more the TikTok apps. But they say that 85% of games that are out there contain violence. And the more a child is exposed to violent material via games, they get higher aggressive behavior. They themselves become very aggressive. They get an increased aggressive mood. They themselves become more aggressive. They start thinking aggressive thoughts, cognition. They have an increased physiological arousal to violence. In other words, it doesn't take much for them to get angry or irritated. They have decreased pro-social behavior. They don't know anymore how to connect socially, how to read social skills, how to interact socially, how to ask the right questions. And they've got a decreased sensitization to real life violence. So when they see violence in real life, in their head, it's not that bad anymore because they've seen so much of it via these games. Now, during gaming, dopamine is released. And dopamine is a hormone or a chemical that gives me pleasurable emotions and feelings. Dopamine is addictive. So dopamine in the right amounts will make me feel on top of the world, make me feel engaged, make me feel happy. But too much dopamine later on becomes addictive. And what 15 minutes of gaming is today to get my dopamine hit becomes 20 minutes tomorrow, half an hour over the weekend. And by next week, I have to have 2 or 3 hours. And very often I've seen teenagers who start gaming Friday afternoon after school, and the game the whole of Friday night, whole of Saturday and Sunday afternoon, they only stop and they haven't had any sleep. I've heard of teenagers that actually wear adult diapers so they don't have the need to get up and go to the toilet because they don't want to miss out on the game. The cravings for gaming produces similar brain changes as drug abuse does in the brain. And as screen time increases, the more the child is exposed to gaming, the brain is desensitized to dopamine, so they need more game time, more screen time with these things. So if we look at some of the games that are out there, Minecraft is a very creative game. Children can build a lot, build things, build worlds. They can design things. Minecraft has also got a zombie mode where you can, where there's a bit more scary things that come out there. Minecraft can also be played online. The problem I have with all these online games is that people, if my kid is not playing with only with friends, if they're playing with other people, who are these other people and where do the other people come from? And very often children engage, they've got the earphones on and the microphone, and they're talking to each other and they're dissing each other and they are calling each other names and they're swearing at each other, things that they wouldn't do when they were face to face. Because I am not seeing someone face to face, if I think someone's an idiot face to face, I would think twice about saying it to them, because what if they say something back to me, or what if they get aggressive to me? Now online, it's not that immediate feedback. So I call people names, I'm nasty to them, I bully them over the games, and then there's not that immediate feedback. So I unlearn these social skills. A game which is very bad is Grand Theft Auto. Its age restriction is 18, reason being, it's not just for the stealing of the cars, but there are things in Grand Theft Auto as you go up levels, things of sexual nature that the children are exposed to. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if your child is playing Grand Theft Auto, I think this is one of the first games that you have to stop and get rid of. World of Warcraft, Clash of Clans, all of these games, do yourself a favor and go and research on the internet. There are very nice sites that are drawn up by parents where you can go type in a game's name, and then you've got parents that have reviewed it and said what they think of the game. Yes, it is appropriate for age 13 or not for age 13, what some of the things are. Fortnite is a game that came up and was very, very popular up to last year. It's still very popular, but with the latest upload, it's become a bit more complicated. So many of the younger kids have gone off Fortnite because it's become too complicated for them. When a child spends too much time gaming, they do not get involved in different positive social experiences in life. They spend so much time online that they don't spend time on play dates. They don't spend time playing soccer, doing sport, doing cultural activities where they're getting other experiences from, and then they unlearn these things. The more exposure to violence in games, short term, the children have got increased social violent thoughts, feelings, and behavior. I'm sure many of you have had the experience where your child has been gaming, and then all of a sudden you say to them, okay, it's now enough, and you switch off the TV or you take the phone, and all of a sudden you have this very irritable, aggressive reaction. It's because all these chemicals and all this adrenaline is built up, and now I'm taking this thing away, and it's almost like a druggie who needs that drug, and I've taken the drug away and they don't know how to react. In the long term, it can start altering the beliefs and values about aggression, saying that aggression in itself is not that bad. There's a tendency to not notice real world pain and suffering because they've been so exposed to violence. I've had children in my practice saying to me, sir, you know what, if I die, I just restart. And very often I've seen that spill out into academics. If they don't do well in this test, don't worry, I'll just retake it next year. Or if I spend so much money online, it's not the end of this world. Mom and dad has got more money. There's many stories out there of, especially on Fortnite, of children who got hold of their parents' credit card details and spent thousands of rands buying skins and upgrades before the parents realized it. So this is just about from the Film and Publication Board, where they have got the different ratings in terms of why they've rated it, things like that. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but if your child is playing a certain game and it's been rated by the Film and Publication Board, go and look and see what are the ratings given. Is it for language, for prejudice, for violence, for criminal technique, substance abuse? Go and have a look what your child is actually looking at, because very often gaming is a very good babysitter. I allow my child to game so that I can just carry on with things, and just going to have a look at what they are looking at. So what can I as a parent do? What can I do with my children? So there's an interaction between the adults, the children, and the devices. As a parent, I need to mediate this. It's my responsibility, because my child's logical, rational side of the brain is not fully developed yet. It's my responsibility to mediate the technology and the children, and to facilitate good interaction they have with them, because technology is a very good tool if used properly. And I need to ask myself, in terms of my child, in terms of their age, their experience, what mechanisms and things can I put into place? So let's have a look at some of the things, guidelines I give. I say to parents, as soon as you give the child the phone, you must have full access to the phone. Do not give a phone as a gift for a birthday or a Christmas, because then the child says, well, this is now my property, and now I've got the right to privacy. Rather say to them, this is my phone that I'm borrowing you, that you can use. So anytime I'm allowed content access to it. If your child's got a smartphone or a device in which they've put a passcode on and they don't want to give you the passcode, they are doing something on that device that they don't want you to know about. Likewise, your child must also have full access to your phone. My children know the password on my phone, so they can go onto things that I'm doing, so that they can also see how I responsibly use my phone. They do know they can't go onto my WhatsApps, they can't go onto my emails, because I've got clients sending me personal messages on there. But for the rest, they've got full access to my phone, so they can see how responsibly I use my device. As parents, we also need to know how these apps work. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to speak about quite a few apps that are out there for us as parents that we can use to help protect my child. I've got to let my child understand that what they put online today stays forever. There are many examples of people who have applied for jobs and they've got a very good curriculum, a very good CV and very good qualifications, but then the company does a search on social media about them, and then 15 years ago, they put something on that was racist or swear words, whatever, and then they don't even get invited for an interview. So some of the rules that I shared with the children that they didn't, many of the children didn't like these rules, but I think it's important that we have it, that a child should not spend more than 2 hours per day on screen time. Now, screen time being TV, laptop, smartphones, Xboxes, iPads, PlayStations. Research has shown that a child who spends more than 2 hours per day on screens, their brains do not develop the way it should be. So it's actually got a physiological implication for my brain. Technology must not be used in the bedroom, because when technology is used in the bedroom, the chances of me looking at things, doing things, bullying people over the phone is much better, because there's no one that's keeping me accountable. Whereas if I use technology in the lounge, in the kitchen, in the dining room, where everyone can see what I'm doing, I'm more accountable for what I'm doing in terms of that. Parents must check the phone in order to protect the child, to protect what's happening, to protect them that they don't receive bullying via WhatsApp, bullying via other social media apps, to see what they are doing to help them and to educate them. But the main thing is to protect them and make sure your kids can talk to you. So the first time they come to you and they say to you, Dad, Mom, this happened on WhatsApp, this happened on TikTok, this happened on Snapchat. As a child, as a parent, we automatically lose it, and then we scream and shout and we're angry and we're upset. Well, the result is my child is not going to talk to me about something similar happening again. So when that happens and they come talk to you, try not to overreact. Try to stay calm. Try to chat about things, because then you're going to ensure that they are much more open to come to you. Also, teach your child to think before they post something. We did a very nice tool in the presentation on Monday about the robot. Red light, stop, yellow light, think, and green light, go. And the thinking is about thinking about what's a better way to do things. When a child receives a message, they do not need to reply immediately. As soon as the WhatsApp goes off or the alert goes off for whatever, we automatically want to reply. Because if someone sends me something that makes me angry and I reply immediately, obviously I'm going to overreact and the result is not going to be so good. So teach your children just to take some time out, and if need be, for them to come and ask you for advice. Also, they do not need to share everything. They do not need to share personal information about themselves. I said to the kids on Monday that did they realize that when they are on holiday and they are taking selfies of themselves at the beach and at this place and at that place, and they're posting it online, there are people online that's saying, oh, the Smiths are on holiday. This is the ideal time to go and investigate what is in their house that I need. So people have access to your address. People know where you're staying, and here you are posting photos while you are on holiday, and it just makes things that much easier. Teach your child not to accept friend invites from people they don't know. Don't say, my friends, cousins, best friends, sisters, whatever, is a nice person, accept their friend request. If they haven't met the person in face-to-face, they mustn't accept invites from them. And don't diss people, don't bully people, don't call people names, because people, what I post on my phone becomes evidence, and people can see this and they can take screenshots of it, and it can be used against me. So some of the apps that we as parents can use, I'm just going to talk about a few of them. Safety Net is an organization, South African organization, that is very clued up in terms of cyberbullying, cyber safety. Go and have a look at their website. They give very good guidelines. They give very good ideas. If you are being bullied, what you can do, who you can talk to. They've also got a very nice Family Digital's value constitution that you can download there, and you can use this as a discussion with your child in terms of what are the rules in terms of social media devices, things like that. On your iPhones, on Apple devices, you have screen time. The nice thing about screen time is if you link your child's phone to your phone, you can decide when is downtime. In other words, from 8 o'clock the evening till 6 o'clock the next morning is downtime. Then the phone is basically just it's just a watch. It can't do anything. You can decide what apps your child can be on and how many hours per day and when they can be on the apps. You can decide which apps are always allowed. You can apply content and privacy restrictions. So that's on screen time. We've got Net Nanny, which is also a very good device that you can use, where you can set the rules. You can decide which devices they can use. You can filter the things. This is Family Link on the Google Store. You can link up to, I think, 5 devices, and you can also decide privacy settings. You can decide app restrictions, downtime, things like that. The nice thing about all these apps is you can at any time switch your child's phone off. If you've asked them 5 or 6 times to put the phone down and they haven't, then you just go onto your app and you can switch their phone off. Kaspersky Safe Kids is one of the one of the ones that I use for my children. What's very nice about it, you pay, I think, 280 Rand for a year, and you can link up to 5 devices, which, as far as I know, includes PlayStation and Xboxes, and you can decide what apps they can go onto, what they can do with the apps, who they can talk to. every time they download an app, you have to give permission. It also blocks many sites on the internet and sends you a report. So that's also a very nice app, an app to use. So we are now at the end of my presentation, which allows us a few minutes if there are any questions, if anyone has posted anything in the chat, then we can have a talk about that. Let me just quickly stop sharing here.
Thank you, Hennie. Thank you, Hennie. I do have a question. How do we deal with peer pressure element when we have decided not to give our kids devices, but all the friends have devices?
That is a difficult one, but in the end, you're the parent. And I always say to people, I would rather have my child at 21 say to me, thank you, Dad, for not exposing me to things, than at the age of 21 that I have to apologize to them. My daughters are 14 and 12. My 14-year-old only got the use of my old phone this year, which you can take along to school. In high school, they use it there. But we said before that, if they want, if their friends want to contact them via WhatsApp, they're welcome to do it. Send the WhatsApp to their mom's phone or my phone, and they can speak to them about it. So I am known as a bit the stricter parent at school, but I'd rather be stricter than what I'm sorry when I'm older. Thank you.
Super. When we started lockdown, screen time and Xbox increased. I'm struggling now to go back to where we used to be beforehand. Any advice?
I think it's important, yeah, that you sit down, have a family meeting, and you sit and you talk to your kids and say, okay, during lockdown, we allowed certain things, and we are now going back to the old rules, and these are the rules. And if you communicate with them and tell them what the rules are and what the boundaries and guidance are, it makes it easier for them. They're not always going to like it, make no mistake, but rather minimize screen time. Let them go out and play outside, have dinner time together, spend time interacting, but bring it down to where it was.
Thank you. Thanks, Hennie. Anyone want to ask a question? Just unmute yourself, I think, if you can, or put your hand up. Do you think Fortnite is appropriate for a 9-year-old?
The short answer, no. There's a lot of violence on there. Fortnite goes about killing and being the last man standing. So if you want your 9-year-old to start acting out socially when the friends come out for a play date and they want to win constantly and bully people, then go ahead. Fortnite's good for them, but I don't think it's appropriate for a 9-year-old, no.
Is Roblox appropriate for a 10-year-old? Roblox, I'm sure it's meant to say roadblocks, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just old.
Roblox is, the rating is, yes, 10-year-old. I do think it's a very nice app that a child can use, but also be aware that there are different games on Roblox. And some of the games does have things like a granny and a grandfather that comes back as ghosts because they were killed and stuff like that. So just be aware of which games your child are playing on Roblox. And also, once again, if your child is playing online, who are they playing online with?
Is Clash of Clans suitable for 13-year-old boy?
It depends on the maturity level of the 13-year-old and whether he can differentiate between what's happening on the game and what's happening in real life. So yeah, from 12, 13, I think as parents, we have to ask ourselves the question, not is this appropriate for a 13-year-old, but is this appropriate for my child? I know my child best and I know what they can and can't handle.
Any other questions that someone would like to ask or type? Okay, super. Oh, Among Us.
Among Us. It's a game that's now come out. I know many primary school kids are playing it. I'm not so clued up on it, but once again, go and look and see online what it is about, and then ask yourself, is it appropriate for your child? What gets my hairs raising is if my daughters have a play date, and on a Friday afternoon they sit here and everyone's on their phones instead of talking to each other. So I say, if you have a play date at my house, you put your phone and your Xbox and your iPads down, and you actually talk to each other. You run around and you play other games. Otherwise, you can just as well stay at your own house and your parents can feed you. I'm not going to buy the cold drink and the chips so that you can talk to each other via the phone. No.
Okay. Hennie, I think you did put up your email address and contact number. Maybe you could just share it again if parents want to get hold of you or ask you, questions that they may either not have thought of or don't want to ask necessarily in a public forum. I'm also happy to put it on our, share it with our parent body on our platforms so that they have it, if you're happy with that.
100%, that would be great. There is my my contact number and my email. So yes, that IS at the bottom is Instagram. If you do want to follow me, speaking about social media, you're more than welcome as well, but there are my contact details.
Super. The recording will be available, Lara. And I just got one more question, Hennie, before we close up.
Yes.
Are phones allowed at schools? What's the rule in South Africa? And what is your recommendation in terms of phones at schools?
Okay, my recommendations about phones at schools, primary school, no. High schools, I know the teachers and the schools use a lot of WhatsApp groups to share information with the children. So in high schools it's difficult, but I think each school should make their own rules. But the majority of schools is going back to a screen-free, phone-free zone these days. And many children say, but what if sports practice times change, or I need to change something and you have to come fetch me at another time? There are what I call dumb phones. Dumb phones can only phone and send SMSs, which you can buy at Pick and Pay or Pep stores for $2.99, and then they can have that phone. But there's always someone in the reception that can phone mom or dad and say, listen, this has happened, that has happened. So yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hennie.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for the privilege. I hope you all have a wonderful evening further. Thank you.
Thank you, and you too.